Hello and welcome to this edition of Africa Speaks. Today is the 16th of May, 2015. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. And of course, we are going to be letting you know what's happening around the African continent, but paying more attention to what's happening in Burundi with the crisis that is ongoing. And of course, the attempted coup. Who exactly is in charge of the country right now? We're going to be getting more into that. And if time allows, or if network allows, we'll be speaking to the spokesman of the president of Burundi to give us an update on who exactly is in charge. But also later on, we'll be speaking about women in leadership across the African continent and also how women are faring here in Kenya when it comes to entrepreneurship and leadership roles. But let's start by taking a look at Web City.
The summit condemns in the strongest terms possible the coup in Burundi, and the summit is of the view that it does not solve the problems of Burundi. We don't accept the coup, we condemn it in the strongest terms possible, and we call upon return to constitutional order in that country.
Burundi's authorities have arrested 3 generals for their role in an attempted coup, but General Niyombare, the leader of the anti-Nkurunziza protests, is still on the run. The streets of Bujumbura were quiet on Friday morning after Thursday's heavy fighting for control of the state radio headquarters and frequent gunfire in the capital, Bujumbura. President Pierre Nkurunziza, who left the country to attend the EAC summit in Tanzania, returned to Burundi on Thursday, regaining control of his country and addressed the nation. The protests have plunged Burundi into its deepest crisis since an ethnically fueled civil war that ended in 2005. In 1993, the country battled ethnic civil war that killed 300,000 people, and it wasn't until Nelson Mandela led a peace accord that there was a ceasefire and a power-sharing deal was agreed upon. Elections were held in 2005 where the main Hutu group won. The same year, Pierre Nkurunziza was nominated as president and has led Burundi since then to date. An email to the Africa Speaks team from the president's deputy spokesperson said it was an attempted coup which failed. President Nkurunziza has returned to Burundi and is in control of the situation. Several senior officers have been arrested.
And well, now let's take a look at Click. Now, Click is also about Burundi. Did you know that in Burundi, over the weekends, especially on Saturday and Sunday, the entire streets of Bujumbura turn into some sort of gym, and a lot of people or citizens of Burundi, do their fitness exercises on the streets of the capital city. Take a look.
A visit to Burundi over the weekend would get you thinking, what am I doing with my body? Bujumbura city streets turn into a gymnasium with citizens uniting for physical fitness.
Traditionally in the rural areas, people walk a lot. I mean, to go from one place to the other, until about 15 years ago, there weren't that many cars. So people are used to walking. Like my parents tell me, they used to walk about 25 kilometers every day to go to school and back. At the end of the day, I think it's the pleasure of having walked together, run together, sweated together in good humor, and by 1 a.m. we separate and everyone goes home.
There we go. And they've always used this as one way of uniting the citizens of Burundi because before 2005, the civil war seemed to have divided the country into 2 or along ethnic lines where the Hutus were against the Tutsis and vice versa. So they always used this as one way to unite one another. Now, torrents of torment has been our coverage this week. But let's look at the lighter side of this. So Kenya is not the only country experiencing heavy rains. This guy you're about to watch shows us a technique you and I can use to board your car should the water levels seem so high? There we go. Next time you know what to do in case you're caught up in the rain and you want to get into your car and you seem to have some difficulties trying to do it. But now on this part of the show, we do speak to people in the know. They do let us know some of the things that they're working on around the African continent and also the affairs that are happening across Africa. Today we are focusing on women in leadership and women in entrepreneurial positions. Now, women's status in Africa is unlikely to improve in the short term due to the level of underdevelopment, particularly in rural areas, and the slow rate of economic growth and the level of indebtedness of many African countries has reduced the development effort. Take a look at countries like Ghana's and Kenya's experiences, for instance, illustrate the extent to which women's status can be improved depending on government awareness of the importance of development opportunities for women, government support for legislation improving the condition and status of women in society, motivated women, and others. Women's bureaus and councils were formed, I think, a few years ago, both in Ghana and Kenya. And when you look at the organizations that have been spearheading this, they've done it successfully in sensitizing women to the various issues affecting gender. Government and non-governmental organizations now will need to augment and sustain these efforts locally and internationally with educational and development programs that are culturally sensitive and satisfy the needs of each society. Educated and privileged women also need to take a leadership role in helping less fortunate women. And international agencies have also been the primary donors for women's projects and programs and have funded research, income generation projects, training and study tours. But women's urban center gatherings have also revealed that main interest in quick turnover income generation rather than cooperatives is higher when it comes to women. Lack of access to land and credit are identified as handicaps for small-scale women farmers. Traditional practices have been major obstacles to women's emancipation. Things like bride wealth and child marriage, as well as polygamy and widowhood, then rituals, high fertility and female circumcision are some of the challenges that still face women in Africa. These practices, having evolved to serve certain interests, are culturally entrenched and are not really are not being eradicated despite Western disapproval. And joining me in studio now to talk about women in leadership in Africa, Mercy Njeru, who is the Managing Director for Kerusu, and Terry Kigundu, who is the Training Manager at Kerusu as well, who are here to talk about women in leadership. I don't know how you would describe women in leadership in Kenya, for instance. Mercy.
Thank you, Joy. I think women leadership in Kenya, we can start it even from the constitution point of view.
Yes.
Where we still have issues on how do we mainstream this or how far we are. Nevertheless, I think women have taken lead in trying to push and reposition themselves or ourselves, if I put myself there, so that whatever it is that we are doing, we have to make sure that it's seen and we are loud about it. But we need clear-cut policies. We need a system that allows for this. And because if we don't have the systems and policies in place, then we keep on fighting, and then it looks like it's the issue of the male and female fight that has already been there right from the beginning.
Right.
So we should have our rightful position by the policies themselves.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll come to Terry.
Yes.
Terry, from your experience, do you think that women in Kenya and across the African continent are on the right path to taking up roles, leadership roles and entrepreneurial roles?
Thank you, Joy, for that. I would say that women in Kenya are trying, but of course there are those challenges that are hindering them from having a progressive move. And for instance, one of them would be like in terms of their levels of education, in terms of the cultural issues that are still in existence, in terms of even women themselves knowing that and willingly even also taking these particular positions. But I think what would happen in the near future is that with proper capacity building, women empowerment, policies put in place, women will definitely be able to take this opportunity much more.
Right. So there's been something that has been going on in Parliament, at least the past few weeks up until today, something to do with the 1/3 gender rule. Mercy, can I hear your thoughts on that, especially knowing that they are looking for ways, at least, to get rid of the women representatives in the National Assembly?
Wow, that's a tricky one, but I think it's worth discussion. Because for one, if we don't have the women in representation naturally, if we are not able to position ourselves and demand it by way of election the way it's done, then the government has a duty really to have a way of mainstreaming this. And therefore the 1/3 gender law, I look at it as two-coined, because we may be lazy and wait for the 1/3 provision. But who says we cannot even have even 50% if you are light-free position as women leaders? So the scrapping, well, it's two-coined, because even if it was scrapped, then it's for us now to come out and say, hey, we are able and we are equal to the task. But let's also consider that naturally it's not available, and therefore there is need to have that provision so that we don't deny the majority, that we think we still have a room for mentoring them, bringing them, building the capacity, doing our way of with all the cultural issues that looks at a woman right from the household and all that. Looking at the women in leadership, again, when they are very focal and all that, we start looking at them from another eye.
Right.
Let's look at them professionally as leaders, and then we separate the issue of being a woman. I'll be when I am back home, then we can deal with that. But so long as I'm doing something that's meaningful, and especially the activities, you look at the entrepreneurs, there are so many women who are doing this thing.
Right.
We go to the financial sector, the ones who are accessing these finances, most of them are doing entrepreneurial businesses to do with the women. Nevertheless, the access remains limited. There are so many barriers, there are so many challenges. But the 1/3 gender rule, for me, I think it's good for the moment.
Right. Okay. And the 1/3 gender rule is good. So there's no need to actually scrap those positions in the National Assembly. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. Terry, I'll now come to you. Why exactly do you think that women are so reluctant to taking up certain positions, knowing that they are well even available to women, but then there's this reluctance? It's not just in Kenya, it's an African problem. Women are so reluctant to take up leadership positions, or at least even positions of entrepreneurial benefit. Why do you think this is so?
I think one is women lack self-confidence, and as a result of that, they are not having the self-drive to take up these positions or even to try bigger entrepreneurship activities. Secondly, it has to do also with the way culturally in Africa, women, men, or rather boys and girls are brought up. Culturally, you'll find that while the children are growing up, it is very clear from the word go from the African context that girls are told you can do this, you cannot do that. And boys are encouraged to go for the bigger things, to go for the bigger activities, to get into entrepreneurship, to get into business, to get into leadership positions. So as we are therefore saying that the policies must be very clear, women must get enough motivation to move on, to take these particular positions, and to be engaged actively in entrepreneurship activities.
So speaking of engaging actively, how exactly do women take part, or do they actively participate in all of these various platforms that are available?
Yes. Women participate actively, actually, in across all the sectors in this nation. Only that majority of them will be doing small scale, let's say, for example, small scale agriculture, small scale in terms of entrepreneurship activities. But all these, of course, are geared, are also challenged, especially by lack of access to credit. Lack of access to credit is a very major hindrance in women active participation in most of these activities that have economic aspect in nature. Yeah, so for me, and to my opinion, is that there should be a way also of mainstreaming all these policies, even with the financial providers, to be able to enable women to access credit, and that's the, after that, then they'll be able to get actively involved, especially in economic activities.
You mentioned something very important to do with credit, lack of access to credit. Mercy, I would like to come to you on that. When it comes to access to credit, is it that it's a cultural problem that, you know, maybe the men in African homes or setups are so stingy or economic when it comes to giving out the finances for women to be able to start up businesses or to be able to take part in entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Joy. I think I'll answer this in the context from where I come from.
Yes.
And that is the cooperative movement. Most members are drawn from the membership is by owning a land, so you have a title that gives you a reason to be a member of a society. That's a typical cooperative member of a society.
Right.
So what that means is that it's the man who has this title deed, it's the one who owns the farm, and therefore it's the same one who will access this financial product from the cooperative society. That has changed. How has it changed? It is through now coming up with an innovative product that will see the whole household at least access credit or financial products from an institution. May it be a SACCO, may it be a financial institution, a commercial bank, or whatever it is. We have seen institutions come up with tailor-made products targeting the women. Right. And let's also not forget the youth. So there are those products that are being tailor-made now to make sure at least they take care of the women who are mobilizing a lot of money. For example, in terms of the chamas and everything else, there's a lot of money out there. But maybe the issue is after we have done the merry-go-round, after we have done all what we need basically, then who is scaling these ladies now to the next level to do much more in terms of entrepreneurship and other activities. Right. So I'm posing a challenge to the institutions, financial institutions, or anyone who has an interest on the women, at least to be innovative enough to have attractive products that they are going to access, and because it's on record that they are also the best payers when it comes to loan repayment.
Right. So we've talked about the fact that, you know, women are more interested in small-scale businesses or small-scale farming practices. But then the confidence, how exactly do we build the confidence, Terry?
Thank you, Joy, for that. Yeah. Capacity building is one of them. We need to create a way of bringing women leaders in some forums. Because what has been lacking, for instance, is mentorship programs. Of course, we do have women who are doing exemplary work even in big businesses, but they have not been given a platform to nurture the upcoming and young talents. And therefore, the first and foremost thing is then to create forums where women who have been there in business, in those leadership positions with high levels of experience, to come together, share their experiences, and help nurture that. Training programs definitely also will go along well, and other empowerment programs. Yeah.
All right. You're watching Africa Speaks, and in case you just joined us, we are talking about women in leadership and trying to find out why exactly are women in Africa not involved as much in leadership and entrepreneurial positions. And how exactly do we change the narrative? You can tweet us using the hashtag #AfricaSpeaks, and we'll be able to check out some of those views that you have. And of course, yes, there are strong women who are involved in leadership positions, even as high as the presidential levels. But then there's also the majority of women who are still lagging behind, especially in the rural areas across Africa. How do we change this narrative? We'll be back and we'll be talking more and also looking at some of your views. Let's take a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This is Africa Speaks, and today we are focusing on women in Africa and their involvement in entrepreneurship and leadership roles. And despite the fact that we've heard the story of women or woman emancipation for decades now, it still seems that there's a lot of women across the African continent who are still not interested in taking up many of these positions. We're asking, why do you think this is so? And how exactly do we change the narrative? In studio with me, I have Terry Kigundu, who is the training manager at Kerusu, that is the Kenya Rural Savings and Credit Cooperative Societies Union. And we also have Mercy Njeru, who is the managing director for this very organization. Now, let's take some of your views and see what you're saying about this. We're having Arthur at Arthur 2300. You're saying women should push for woman emancipation. That's the only way she will be regarded a woman of all rights. And Mbogoli Eric is saying, now that we have counties, are there programs for women on financial literacy? That is what he's asking. And we also have George Njabia, who is saying, self-confidence is the greatest impediment to women embracing leadership roles in Africa. And Nicholas is also saying, more effort is needed to make them interested in leadership and also the culture and mindset towards leadership. Would like to hear from you. Take part in this conversation. How do we change the narrative and involve more women in leadership roles and entrepreneurship? Let me come back to my guests who are in studio with me today. I would like to find out from you, the transformation of the woman in Africa has been a long journey, and it's a journey that still continues. And one thing that President Obama of the United States mentioned a while back is that if you want a nation to come from being underdeveloped to a developed country, you need to involve the woman, because she is the foundation of entrepreneurship. And until we realize that, we're not going to get anywhere. So how do we change this narrative? How do we transform the woman to be able to know that she is capable and has the potential to do so much more than what she's doing, especially in rural areas?
Thank you, Joy. I think the first thing is that there has to be a deliberate move to take stock of what is this woman doing right at the grassroots level. Because there is so much, even her riba, you know, when we are counting whatever we have achieved, whatever she puts in, even in a family setup, is not accounted for. So if we are able to take stock, then that would be good. Then how do we also build the capacity? How do we build the, the confidence? It is coming up with programs that are going to assist them into trying to unveil their potential, so that they are able to come up at par and even learn from others who have been successful. And now the challenge is, how ready are we, how willing are we, in whatever position, to bring up those who are down there and who are really suffering out of their esteem. But the beginning point is just building capacity, giving them information, so that when one talks with confidence. And that is the beginning point.
Right. I'm looking at a scenario of an African family setup where the woman is only required to give birth to children and cook food and, provide for maybe provide for the husband whatever conjugal rights it is that he needs. And in many rural areas, that is just about the duty of a woman. And Terry, I would like to find out from you, do you think that up until today we still have many of those cases that are similar to what we've always known as, or what we've always stereotyped as women's duties?
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, especially in the rural setup, that case still exists as at today. But what we are saying is that there is still an opportunity for these women, especially in the rural areas, to still take their rightful positions. And first, what would be highly recommended is issues to do with financial literacy. Where do they also access the credit? Can we train them entrepreneurship skills? Of course, most of these women also do agriculture. Can we also have a kind of a capacity building program that is telling these women, let's not just do agriculture as a subsistence kind of farming. Right. Let's do it for agribusiness. Let's do it for money. And at the end of the day also, we need the men to support the women. So as we are talking about women, how they are going to be up there, let's forget that we need the support of the men. So that at the end of the day, then all the kind of activities that we put together with, if we have support from the family level, it is almost obvious that these women now, with gained self-confidence and motivation, they will be able to take up these activities.
From where you sit, are men supporting women enough?
We have done a number of studies, and these studies, we did them in the rural areas, and most of the target population were the farmers, and therefore these are farmers also who are members of Kerusu Limited, and the results, of course, that came up as fact is that men have not been able to support women fully. But the same studies also showed that if men are sensitized enough and are also involved in forums where we are doing gender sensitizations, if we sensitize men and we sensitize women, then the findings were that these men would be willing to support the women.
Right.
Yeah.
So your organization is organizing an event that is meant to help women come up with better ways of putting themselves out there. Mercy, can you tell us about it and what exactly is it going to be about?
Yeah, the event that is coming, of course, Terry will be giving the finer details.
Yes.
But I'll just give you the why the event and what informed Kerusu to come up with that. Of course, we have talked about the studies that we did. Secondary is that it's a male-dominated sector where we are working. If I look at all the board of directors across the circles we are working with, I'm not sure whether we can achieve even 10% of women in leadership positions. Therefore, it has also become very hard to mainstream the 1/3 gender rule. So that informs us that we owe the sector a duty, and indeed all the other sectors, at least to come up with a forum that is going to engage in several women in various positions, bring on board potential women in leadership, and have a session of experience sharing and also mentorship process to tell them it is doable. And therefore, in this forum, we also have invited, of course, men. They are also in attendance, so that we are not just pushing like the Beijing, we're just pushing a professional way of doing things and involving the women leaders in and giving them an opportunity. I think that should be the message. Then the outcome is that which are the programs, which programs are we going to have in place then to build the capacity? So that forum, the women who are coming and the men, we should be able to identify the real issues and have a positive way of dealing with them, so that come the next year when we have the next forum, we will be taking stock of the milestone that we've had in this particular year.
All right. Maybe Terry can tell us about the programs that we're going to be having, especially with the different sessions during the event. What kind of training are we looking at?
Thank you, Joy. Actually, this particular program, or the Women in Leadership Conference, is the first that Kerusu has organized. And as Mercy has said, that it is coming to address the issues that we have been talking also in this particular session. And the theme for the event is Empower Me in Festino, which also goes with what Obama said sometimes back.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So we will be having all the women and men in leadership positions. These are the chief executive officers, the executive board of directors, and the senior managers across the sectors. And in this, we will have also speakers from across the board. We'll be having our CS, our cabinet secretary, Honorable Cabinet Secretary Haden Mohammed as a chief guest.
Yes.
Dr. Gideon Muriuki also will be answering issues to do with the financial and how women can access credit across the financial sector. We'll also be having issues to do with health, issues to do with how women have positioned themselves by Tapitha Kalanja. She'll be there to help us understand the challenges and the obstacles and how she has been able to overcome that, which I think is a very good case study. We'll also be even having issues to do with transformative leadership.
Yes.
And Tony Mwangi of Uniters will be addressing that. And we are saying that it is until we get to this issue of leadership and we get it right, then we can be able to transform now from where we are to the next level. And we'll also be having Professor Esther Geshelu, who has been very key in the cooperative university, and has also seen the university transform from the college to the to a university. And she will be able to explain issues to do with leadership in Africa. And basically, those are the major issues that we wish to address for the 2 days. That is at Safari Park, 18th and 19th of May. We'll also be having companies who will be doing exhibitions in the same conference.
Great. So you're encouraging women to be part of the exhibitions?
Oh, yes. Even
Awesome.
the small women's.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I would now like to have your final remarks, Mercy and Terry. I'll start with Mercy. What are your final remarks as we head towards this event?
Thank you, Joy. It's been a pleasure being in this program, and we hope to be back here to share more.
Yes.
There is still a lot.
I'm looking forward to that, because we rarely host women on the show. So I am more than overjoyed that you came here to talk about women empowerment.
Let me also say that in that same forum, I will be sharing also the challenges and the opportunities, and to some extent also my experience as a leader in the cooperative movement.
Yes.
So that will come out very well. So thank you very much. I want to say that all are welcome.
Yes.
From all sectors, because we believe we have both those who are in the private sector and out of the cooperative movement. We also want to say that cooperative sector or the circle is the way to go. Therefore, we say cooperative is a family, and we welcome everybody on board.
Right. Terry, your final remarks?
Thank you for the show. I think this is a very excellent program, especially when you're talking of African and leadership. So we would be very glad also to be sharing the outcome of our event after next week. And secondly, I think there is still a great opportunity for women leaders in Kenya today. So let's take our positions, let's get involved in all the activities, especially the economic activities, get enough education and get the self-confidence. Lastly is to thank the team also that is helping us to organize this conference, the HPC team, and we wish all of us all a good day.
Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate the time taken to come here and talk about women in leadership and also women empowerment. We look forward to having that event as well. In studio with me have been Mercy Njeru, who is the Managing Director for Kenya Rural Savings and Credit Cooperative Societies Union. There is a SACCO, and also we had Terry Kigundu, who is from the same organization, but the training manager for Kerusu. Well, thank you all for your contributions. Let me just read a few here. Clara, was wondering where the event is going to take place, but I think we already answered that. It's going to be at Safari Park. And the Vigilante, or at Atha 2300, you're saying, I agree with the forums that Miss Mercy brought up to indulge men for backbone push. And we also have Haruna, who is saying, women in Burundi have inspired the world, even if their victory is short-lived. And George again is saying women should also be proactive in their roles as to warrant support from men. And Augustine Nato, you're saying Africa needs to change the perception about women. What men can do, women can do, and even sometimes do it better. Now, Of course, setting aside all of this as we wind up the show, would like to leave you with a clip. Just imagine if foreign affairs ministers from across East Africa were to meet up somewhere, maybe at a summit, and then decided to sing a song. This one happened in Turkey, in Antalya, where foreign ministers from the NATO countries joined hands or let their hair down to sing "We Are the World." Take a look. Thank you all for watching. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. God bless you.